From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Onyato.
Hello and welcome. Prominent Nigerians continue the discussion of the country's post-Civil War experience in Lagos. Our citizens to learn from the ugly incident and prevent a repeat of that history. Nigerians to begin payments of 7.5% value-added tax as President Buhari signs the 2019 finance bill into law after its passage by the 9th National Assembly. Supreme Court adjourns hearing in the appeals of 6 governors to tomorrow due to ill health of a member of the 7-man panel of justices. And Queen Elizabeth II backs period of transition for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan. Plus business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and of course later we'll head over to our studios in London.
On Business News tonight, OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo expresses confidence that additional 500 barrels per day production adjustments will maintain stability in the crude oil market in 2020.
And on sports news tonight, barely a week after his sack as Enyimba head coach, Usman Abdallah returns to the Nigeria Professional Football League as Wiki Tourist technical advisor.
And from Abuja, a 34-year-old Nigerian is arraigned before a magistrate's court in South Africa on 5 charges, including alleged murder of an off-duty policeman.
Years ago, precisely in January 1970, the last shot was fired in the Nigerian Civil War, effectively ending the conflict. But it had claimed about 3 million casualties, leaving behind devastation and starvation amidst the ruins of the strife. Those memories are still very much in the minds of many who experienced the war firsthand. To commemorate the end of that war, some groups today put together a conference tagged Never Again, the Nigerian Civil War, 50 years after. Our political correspondent Sheung Wakimbaloye reports.
For him,
you can feel it in the room that it will be a day of letting off the steam and the sad memories of the Nigerian Civil War.
The aim is to sensitize Nigerians.
As the organizers set the ball rolling, the expressions were on the loose. The intellectuals who were keynote speakers were frank and pointed.
The leadership, on whichever side, is about to repeat, yet again, the ultimate folly of sacrificing 2.5 million lives on the altar of absolutes, any absolute whatsoever. We should borrow that African-American credo, paint them on prayer scrolls, flood the skies in their millions with kites bearing that inscription, and balloons that read very simply, African lives matter.
Critical question is, why does Nigeria wobble so badly in spite of experience that should be driving it forward, and what can be done about it? I think we can list reasons to include 1, a mistaken view that Nigeria is about how much you can extract from the national cake. A cake to eat makes poor tomorrow, but producing makes rich always. There is a duty that each and every one of us has. It is the duty to believe that it can be different, and that if we can dream it, we can make it happen.
The fear for most of those who experienced the carnage and the devastation of the late 1960s which climaxed into the end of the war in 1970, is that such a human-made disaster should never replay itself again.
Nigerians have to reflect on the road we have passed. For example, the proposition can be made that we went to war because there was a failure of leadership. And in saying that, I will remind us that the three regions were really doing very well. We are already in a crisis. If we, in our sober deference to reality, find that we can no longer hold together as one country, then let us together peacefully find a rational solution. And let us never again plunge into any kind of war among us.
After the speeches comes a panel discussion and emotions flow freely.
Very personal to many of us, very sensitive matter.
60% of the fighting forces in Biafra were killed where I come from. Why did you drag us into that war?
It was a reality check for Nigeria and its people that the polity has a slender body which needs to be properly managed, and stern warning coming from the elderly in the room that the horrors of the civil war should never again repeat itself. Sheon Wakimaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
Now, back to the business of governance. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the 2019 Finance Bill into law following its passage by the 9th National Assembly. The bill, which was introduced alongside the 2020 budget, aims to reform Nigeria's tax laws to align with global best practices and support micro, small and medium enterprises. It also seeks to incentivize investments in infrastructure and capital markets, as well as raise government revenue. It's the first time since Nigeria's return to democracy 2 decades ago that a federal budget is being accompanied by the passage of a finance bill specially designed to create an enabling environment for business and investment by the private sector. The signing of the bill has been commended by economists, policymakers and financial market operators in the country. Meanwhile, the 2020 Finance Bill signed into law by the President proposes an increase of the VAT rate from 5% to 7.5%, among others. One key assumption is that with the assent, there will be more revenue to finance key government projects. Our next report takes a look at the key features of the bill, which, according to the President, has 5 strategic objectives.
In October 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari submitted the Finance Bill 2019 to the National Assembly. The bill seeks to implement wide fiscal reforms and transform the government approach to tax administration.
We shall sustain this tradition by ensuring that subsequent budgets are also accompanied by a finance bill.
While some components introduce increments, several others are aimed at reducing taxes, especially for small and medium enterprises, to stimulate economic activities.
The exempt items to include the following: 1, brown and white bread; B, cereals including maize, rice, wheat, millet, barley, and sorghum.
This is the first time that the Nigerian government is making an attempt at effecting a holistic change to its entire fiscal laws at one sweep. In the early hours of Monday, the 13th of January, President Muhammadu Buhari announced through his Twitter handle that the finance bill has been assented to. The bill seeks to increase the value-added tax from the present 5% to 7.5%. The federal government argues that Nigeria's VAT ranks among the lowest in the world.
The additional revenues will be used to fund health, education, and infrastructure programs.
The key features of the financial bill include the following: promote fiscal equity by mitigating instances of regressive taxation, reform domestic tax laws to align with global best practices, introduce tax incentives for investments in infrastructure and capital markets, support micro, small and medium-sized businesses in line with the ease of doing business reforms, and raise revenues for government. Many have described the bill as a very laudable effort at overhauling the nation's fiscal laws, especially around taxation, and in the long run, drive increased growth for the economy.
Now let's get another perspective on the new finance law, which is what it is now. Joining me live from Abuja is an economist and the former Director General of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you a lot for joining us on the news at 10. And that's Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. Thanks for joining us. Let me just start off by asking you how you received the news that, the finance bill has now been passed, especially from the perspective of the private sector.
I received the news with some excitement because that bill tried to remove a lot of ambiguity in the tax laws of Nigeria. Many times there are various interpretations given to the laws just because the law itself didn't clear a lot of gray areas. So the ambiguity that was there has actually been cleared. It's a very comprehensive document, and it's actually meant to generate a lot of revenue for the country. It is also meant to drive the small, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So when people expect that it's actually going to increase expenditure because of the increase in VAT, they should also look at the area of palliatives that have been created where businesses with income less than 25 million in a year will actually pay nothing in company income tax. And of course, above that to 100 million, they are paying graduated rate of about 20%, and above 100 million, they are paying 30%. So the issue of fiscal equity, which actually was one of the objectives of the bill, has actually been addressed in this case. So people pay different things at different income levels.
Yeah, but do you think it's strategic enough in terms of what the government is trying to achieve, this financial gap is trying to bridge? I know you've itemized some of the features of it, but is it strategic enough, do you think?
To the extent that we're trying to reduce the inflation rate of the country, to that extent, I think the increase in VAT will not be able to resolve that. Because once this VAT becomes operational, you are going to see a situation where prices are going to increase all over the country, and they will pass down that price increase to the ultimate consumers, who are you and I. So to that extent, it may not be the right thing to take. But let us also consider the advantage that will give the country in terms of additional revenue base, which had before now had remained a major issue in this country. So it's going to add to our revenue base, and so we need to tolerate the other demerit of such VAT at this stage.
Okay, let me ask you to weigh in on this argument. Some say that the crux of the matter is that Nigerians are going to pay more, at least some Nigerians to an extent, because all the items liable, as you've said, will go up. Some say that it looks as though, with one hand, they're giving the 30,000 naira minimum wage, and then with the other hand, it's slowly being taken away. Are people justified to think this way?
Not completely. Like I mentioned, the lower income earners are actually almost paying nothing if they are doing their businesses, because if their income level is less than 25 million per annum, of course, they're paying nothing in income. So it brings some equity, fiscal equity, like it was mentioned. People pay different things. If you're earning more, you pay more. If you're paying less, you pay less. So yes, the prices of goods and services are going to increase, but I do not think the impact is going to be very serious as being mentioned by people.
Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu, former Director General of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry and an economist. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10 tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And in part 2, after the break, Nigerian girl allegedly trafficked to Lebanon regains her freedom in Beirut, soon to join her family in Nigeria. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.